Hello, I am Cheeky Diamondz, a company member with Novelties Theater, and today I'm chatting with Knox Falls about In the Desert by Stephen Crane. Knox Falls is a gothic, international performing artist that calls Seattle home, amassing multiple awards within their career ranging from Best Costume, Most Fierce, and Queen, using burlesque and slam. How am I pronouncing it right? Slamlesque?
Yes.
As a primary medium, they have established themselves as a slow-burning doom witch. They are the founder, producer of Dark Diamondz Burlesque, an all-POC collective, co-producer of Emerald City Comic-Con Burlesque, and co-producer of Dark Violet Productions. Please welcome Knox Falls.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. I'm putting you on a spot, but will you tell me a little bit more about the slow burning doom witch?
Well, if you've seen me perform, I like to take my time on stage and, little waddles at a time, little waddles.
I love that.
And so, I'm always like, I walk across the stage and I am winded. I'm like, woo. So I've learned to perform. I like the sensual, slow performances. I find like I'm the most powerful that way sometimes when standing still. And Doom Witch is one of my favorite words. It just means a woman of a certain age or femme of a certain age. And so it lets you, men come up with the damnedest names to call us as we get older, but that one is my favorite.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Right? I looked up and I was like, okay, you might have just done something here. I like this. I'll take this. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about your poem that you chose, In the Desert. Yes. So why did you choose this poem?
This poem is short, but it's dark and to the point, much like me. It's always stuck with me. The poet in question generally writes, I like to think, about introspection, writes a lot about what's inside, the shadows and whatnot. And this one always stuck out with me because the description is so visceral and disturbing, and at first makes no sense until you read it over and over, and then the point where it starts to make sense is the part where you like start to get depressed because you start to understand it a little bit more.
Allusion is the literary term for an indirect reference, usually to another textual tradition. A reader might not recognize an allusion unless they get the reference, so to speak. Stephen Crane's 1895 poem, In the Desert, describes a creature eating its own heart, which, frankly, could be an allusion to a lot of things in the Greco-Roman mythological tradition. Gods and humans alike are constantly consuming organs, for good or for bad. Tantalus attempts to trick the gods into eating his son, Pelops, and is punished for it. Prometheus steals fire from the gods, only to be punished by having eagles peck out his liver every day. But the consumption of organs can also be a way to worship the gods, especially the goddess Nyx. In the Hesiodic tradition, Nyx is the goddess of night, from whom daytime, death, despair, sleep, dreams, friendship, fate, and brightness are born. According to the Roman poets Ovid and Satius, a pure ritual to the goddess of night involved eating animal entrails.
All right. So tell me a little bit about how you first encountered this poem and how your relationship to the poem has changed over time.
I found the poem looking at mythology and mythology inspirations for the goddess Nyx, which is the goddess of night.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed up in one of those Pinterest relevancy things, and I just started diving deeper into the artist. And over time, reading the poem, it has been you come across a work by accident, and it's in a sense fate, and then you keep the work with you because it becomes a part of you. And over time, I've done nothing but grown closer. I used to identify, I think, when I coming up upon the poem as the writer themselves. And as I have gotten older and more gloomier, I guess, or gloomier, I start to identify as the creature. So, depending on the day, generally, of which side of the coin do I choose with this poem?
Yeah, well, and that's an interesting concept too, that you start at one place and you start interpreting it differently as you move through time and through life. I'm curious, and it's hard to say now, but I'm curious on how that will change looking back at this poem in X amount of years, or looking back at your piece that you created for this.
Yeah, I think it evolves with the piece as the piece evolves as well. Which part do I perform? Like when I started, I performed the piece as possibly the beginning of the poem. And as it has evolved, I performed the piece more so in the middle as the representation of the middle of the poem.
Wow. Oh, that's fun. That's a fun development. Well, let's talk a little bit about then the character of this poem.
Okay. For what I have it as, there are two main characters in this poem. And I believe that these main characters are essentially the same person, but it is uncovering, it could be, obviously, the creature itself can be so many representations of trauma or something like that. But when discovering, you're looking at something that you don't necessarily understand and you're disgusted at. And you don't realize that this thing that is happening in front of you has its own reasoning. And while it has entertained speaking with you, it's not entertaining of explaining itself fully, because probably you're going to understand later. And when I started it, I definitely was Stephen Crane of walking upon something, that I did not understand. And as I've gotten older, I have become the thing in my own, I think of my own interpretation of where I'm at with life, it's the same, I think, as of maiden, mother, and crone type of evolution of eventually we're all, young in spring, and we start to get a little bit older and hopefully wiser and a lot more introspective of the thing. And we start to become the thing that we used to not understand. And even then, once we do maybe understand that, we still have more evolutions to go through.
Yeah. Great. All right. And we talked a little bit about how this is a short but sweet piece. So do you have a favorite line from the text?
Honestly, yeah. My favorite one is the favorite line is the last line. I had to check because it used to be a different line, but like I said, as you evolve, but the last line is, "And because it is my heart." And I love it because it's very final. It does not leave any room for questioning. It is an answer and not an explanation.
Yes. And it also seems very true, very, very honest to the person speaking that. It's because I believe the line right before is something, it is bitter.
Oh, yeah. I can read the whole thing if you.
Oh, please. Let us get a read.
In the Desert by Stephen Crane. In the desert, I saw a creature, naked, bestial, who squatting upon the ground held his heart in his hands and ate of it. I said, "Is it good, friend?" "It is bitter, bitter," he answered. "But I like it because it is bitter and because it is my heart."
Thank you. Thank you for reading that. I love it. I haven't had a chance to have somebody actually read me the piece that their art process was based off of. I love that. So yeah, it seems like a very, kind of like we were talking about the piece itself. It's very honest. and like in its truest form. It doesn't seem you put on top of it.
Yeah, the most thing I like about it is that it is an answer and not an explanation. I think we often get those things confused, that we want our answers to explain things, and they don't. Answers don't always explain. They just answer.
Yes. Well, and I think also I interpret it as well as what you're saying, because we've been talking about like as we get older and like learn different things. And I think one of those things is you don't have to explain. Like it's still good to answer, but you don't have to give an explanation to it. It's just because.
Yeah, and that's it's a complete answer. Like that kind of thing. I definitely agree.
That is all right. Can you tell me a little bit more about your artistic process and what it was like translating this poem into a piece of art?
Oh, that was definitely a hard one. I carried this poem around a lot, definitely a lot before burlesque. And afterwards, it just kind of bloomed into what I thought darkness looked like, or what I thought darkness could represent, or the joining and marrying of a character, which was the goddess of night, and the poem within itself. So after carrying that art with me, that the catalyst, I suppose, carrying it with me, it just kind of bloomed and latched on to my favorite things to do is to sew. So it just kind of weaved itself into it, honestly. Because I can't really say that I picked this as more as I can say that it definitely picked me. It was supposed to be my art that was made from it was this costume. Yeah. And so I took the interpretation of Stephen Crane's with that to incorporate into the song to describe of what I was, which is essentially the night. Mm-hmm. I am the night. I am what I think that the darkness can represent. And from concept to costume to even my facial features, like I have the mask because I think that darkness doesn't need to see. Mm-hmm. Because why would you? Yeah. My eyesight is gone. I have whiteout contacts, and I thought that was particularly important. Because now, when you do see the darkness, you don't like what you see, especially if it's darkness inside of you. Mm-hmm. So you tend to be blind about things. And that was a lot of introspection going into about 4 minutes that maybe 1 to 2 people got, up close. You can see it up close. But over time, I thought, it's something I keep. It's definitely something that I keep in there because I love the idea of performing impaired, blindless. They're screened, so I'm not like totally blind to anything, but performing that way and not concentrating so much on eye contact, the lack thereof, is even more disconcerting. Mm-hmm. And I really like that part the most. I think that's the most part I actually like, is taking away the facial covering, only to realize that it wasn't to protect me from you. It was to protect you from me. Mm-hmm. Type of thing.
Yeah. Well, tell me more about, you were talking about a little bit about your headpiece and kind of how it started and where it is, and then like how that has all transpired.
Okay. You'll see some of the earlier sketches that I've sent, and I had lofty ideas of what I thought the headdress was going to look like. I envisioned just wearing the sky on my head. Mm-hmm. And it had like a little window, and I don't even know why I had a little window. I was young, and I was eager, and I was moody. I'm still moody, but yeah, I don't know why. I looked at that picture and I was like, oh, okay. Choices. But
right. Like, I'm sure there was a reason. I'm sure.
I don't know the reason. I don't. I was just like, all right then. But definitely that did not work out. I ended up realizing that I did not need the night sky on my head because I was essentially the darkness. And it was just something of, I think that it's important to have something on your head when you're embodying things like that, because it could be the final cherry. And so I opted for a crown made of feathers. And I now use that crown to hide the moon that I perform with now in there. But there was just something very creepy about having a crown of feathers just bloom from your head. And that I'm glad that is what ended up being the final rather than the giant billboard on my head at the time.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's about the most embarrassing, before photo or in concept photo of that. I was like, oh no, but I'm gonna give it to you.
Does this big Windows headpiece still exist? Is it somewhere?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We just ignored that. We just left it in Texas in a dumpster somewhere.
Oh. Well, do you have anything else? Yeah, you wanted to share about any of the other aspects or any of the images that people are going to be seeing along with these?
Okay, so they may see. So the video and most of the photos are from the debut of it, and the face paint is almost the same. I block out most of my face now. A little bit more naked underneath there, believe it or not. It's just evolved. Honestly, it's just evolved. If you've seen it before, then you know that it's a lot more creepier than what it was before. And I'm very much proud of that aspect because I feel more myself as I perform it.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Want to talk a little bit more about, how we've been talking about this whole time about how your art evolves, how you evolve as a person, and how you interpret things differently. So it's going to have effect on how you see the old one versus how you feel when you perform it or do it now.
I think when I do new numbers or debut numbers, I'm basically trying something on. And then when I've performed it after a while, I'm actually wearing it, trying something on versus wearing it. And that was, you witnessed me trying that number on. And now when I perform it, I wear that number because I'm like, all right, here to creep you out. It's me, cuckoo, cuckoo. And I'm pretty much that cheery about it because I'm like, yes. So you're having a good time. You're about to not.
Yeah. I'd love to see that in an intro for you one time. Have a spooky time.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that last lovely classic number. Here's some creepy shit.
Oh, that's fun. I can't wait until shows are in-person shows are happening again and I can get back to doing weird things on stage.
Me too. Now it's just my neighbors just going, oh, all right. It's that one again.
Yep. Will you pull up those shoes for us? Can we see those shoes one more time? Yes. I got a little sneak peek of them before the interview, but they're amazing. And this goes back to what you're saying about precision. Oh, look at that. Guys, do you remember how many rhinestones are on each of those shoes?
Oh gosh. Oh no. We're talking. I know I went through a giant bag that had over 1,000 in them. And honestly, 90% of them are still on there. It's back when I used to use the E6000, the toxic kind. And I was not wearing a mask when I did this. I remember.
I don't. When you said that the rhinestone stayed on, I was like, oh, I wonder if they used E6000. We're not supposed to use that, but everybody does specifically for the shoes.
I think as long as you you're well ventilated and you're careful, it's perfectly fine. Like just use ventilation and I use it in ventilation and moderation is how I approach the old time E6000. But I have to say, I'm pretty sure they stayed on, all these rhinestones stayed on after all these years because of that.
Yes.
And now you get these boots that are all pre-rhinestone, and I'm like, back in my day.
Right. I see those and I'm just like, what? And then, but then there are people like you who are like, I could just do this. Let me just
like I've got all night. It's fine.
And one last question for you. So if we were to pair a food or a drink, what would you pair with this text?
With this particular text, I would suggest duck hearts and gin.
Yeah. Wait, I have never had duck hearts.
Oh, I absolutely love them.
Please tell me more. I love duck. Like, it's one of my favorite meats. So please tell me more about duck hearts and how you cook that, what you eat that with.
Well, I've had it cooked for me. So
okay. I was hoping you were going to be like, oh, I got this. You just
first you put it in there and you add. I have no idea how it's one of my. It's a restaurant in Ballard actually that used to serve them, or still does. But you know, during the panoramic, I've not been out, but Score. I think it was called Score.
Okay, I'm totally going to go look that up after this.
But they are delicious, and you can order it as an appetizer. But the way that they cook them is they're succulent. They don't. I've had different types of animal heart before in the past. A little bit of experimenter when it comes to certain foods. I've not had lingua, but like a heart, okay, I'll eat a heart. But they're chewy, but not chewy like it interferes.
Okay.
It's hard to, it's really hard. It's hard. It's like describing liver. And I love liver.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I was like, yeah, I guess I couldn't describe another kind of organ meat if I had to be given the opportunity. Right.
I was like, I did not take that one. I was like, but yeah, if you've had liver, very good liver, and if you like liver, then yes, duck hearts are equally as delicious to me.
Oh, fun. Yay. Well, thank you for that tip. Thank you for that foodie tip, and something that I hope that everyone out here can go ahead and give a try. If you are a little nervous about the duck hearts, gin is also a good alternative, as we were saying. Gin is something to try with this. Do you have a drink that you would recommend?
Oh, I love a good martini.
Oh, okay. All right. I am a vodka martini person, but I do like gin and soda. That is something to enjoy. So. Well, thank you so much for taking some time with me and talking about art.
Well, thank you again for having me and listen to me ramble about shoes and whatnot and artistic interpretation. Hopefully I was able to answer things.
Yeah, well, it's always fun to get a chance because as we've been talking about, like kind of being cooped up and everything that's going on in the world and in America right now, it's just good. I miss a good opportunity to speak with another person about art, what inspires you, and food, if we're going to be real.
Yes. Oh, yes. Food is more important than I think now than anything. It's more of a comfort more than ever.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Ekphrasis, a production of Novelties Theatre. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to make a tax-deductible donation through the link in the video description. And don't forget to like and subscribe below so you don't miss our next episode featuring Tootsie Spangles and her interpretation of Circe by Madeline Miller.